They called him Solon the Wise. But before wisdom, there was fire. In the year 594 BCE, Athens was a city eating itself alive. It was a powder keg of debt, rage, and despair, teetering on the brink of total collapse. The rich got richer, the poor became slaves, and the land itself was chained by markers of debt. One spark, and the whole dream of Athens would burn to the ground. From this chaos, one man rose, not a king, not a general born to power, but a merchant, a soldier, and a poet. His name was Solon. He had seen the world, he had seen it bleed, and he had a radical, dangerous idea. He believed he could rewrite the soul of his city. In a scene that would echo through history, Solon stood before the Athenian assembly. Barefoot, wearing a simple tunic, he faced down the furious nobles and the desperate masses. Then he tore open his tunic to reveal a back scarred by lashes, the marks of a debt slave, marks he bore metaphorically for his entire people. In that moment of shocking silence, he proclaimed the Seisachtheia, the shaking off of burdens. Every debt cancelled, every debt slave freed, every mortgage stone smashed. In a single cataclysmic day, he reset the entire Athenian economy. Imagine the sheer audacity. Farmers who had worked land they'd never own for generations were suddenly free. Families sold into bondage were reunited. It was an explosion of hope, a social earthquake that sent shockwaves through the ruling class. They called him a traitor, a revolutionary, a madman. The poor called him a savior. But Solon knew that freedom from chains was only the first step. True freedom required something more, a voice. So he went even further. He dismantled the age-old aristocracy of blood and replaced it with a system based on wealth-earned wealth. He created 4 new civic classes, from the wealthiest landowners down to the poorest laborers. The West. This wasn't just about money, it was about merit. And crucially, for the first time in history, every single class, even the poorest, was given a vote in the assembly. He didn't just free the people, he gave them power. He invented the very concept of citizenship. The nobles were furious. How dare he make slaves into voters? They plotted in the shadows, orchestrating violence and chaos during a citywide festival, hoping to frame the peasants and turn the city against Solon, branding him a tyrant who brought anarchy. They wanted civil war. But in the midst of the carnage, Solon stood firm. He faced down the mob, a dagger was thrown, and he caught it by the blade, letting his own blood drip onto the sacred ground. He exposed the conspirators and silenced the violence, not with force, but with a challenge. He told the assembly that he had given them the tools, the laws, the vote, the choice. The rest was up to them. To prove his laws could stand without him, he did the unthinkable. He walked away from power. He sentenced himself to a 10-year exile, telling the Athenians that if their city still stood when he returned, his laws were just. If it fell, then they would know who was truly to blame. For a decade, Solon journeyed across the known world. He went to Egypt, where he measured the Great Pyramids. He visited the court of the fabulously wealthy King Croesus of Lydia, who showed off his mountains of gold. But Solon was unimpressed. He famously told the king, "Count no man happy until he is dead," a profound statement on the fleeting nature of fortune. He traveled, he learned, he wrote, but his heart remained in Athens. When he finally returned, he was an old man with a white beard. He found a city that was different. It was more beautiful, with new temples gleaming on the Acropolis. But it was also more rigid. A new, ambitious leader named Pisistratus was rising, surrounded by bodyguards. The democracy Solon had birthed was fragile, already showing signs of strain and the temptations of tyranny. Looking upon the city he'd saved, Solon wept. He felt he had failed them. But he hadn't. He had given them a mirror. He had given them a blueprint for what a society could be. He had given them the idea of democracy. Solon's story isn't just about cancelling debt or creating classes. It's about the radical belief that power should belong to the people. It's about the courage to choose laws over civil war, and the wisdom to walk away from ultimate authority. Over a century later, when Pericles stood on the Acropolis and delivered his famous funeral oration in the Golden Age of Athens, he was standing in the world that Solon built. The Parthenon itself may not have been built by Solon, but without him, there would have been no Athens to build it. His laws endured. The idea of citizenship spread. The principles of know thyself and nothing in excess became the bedrock of Western philosophy. He didn't save Athens. He taught Athens how to save herself. And in doing so, this merchant, soldier, and poet became immortal. Every time you participate in a civic duty, every time you cast a vote, you are echoing the name of Solon, the man who rewrote Athens.